And welcome into the Tuesday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Hope everybody's off to a great start this morning. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Joe Rexrode, what's going on? How we doing?
Good. Where do we live again? March 19th. Got frost, 20 degrees outside. What's up with that?
Not a fan of it, although I will say February was nice. So it's hard. I'll take one day of this crap if we just exit it quickly. But I'm with you. I woke up this morning.
February was good.
25 degrees at my house. Windshield was frosted. It's a crap.
Yeah.
There we go.
Don't account for that time. Yeah. So, but other than that, good. Ready to go to Charlotte. Wonder what the weather's like there. I'm going to look right now.
Nick Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
I'm doing great. I didn't expect it either. I had to let out some angry bulldogs this morning.
I bet they were.
And I froze my butt off too. So we're all off to the same start, huh?
Two bulldogs.
Two baby bulldogs.
Two baby bulldogs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Very, very trivial times. Yeah.
I'm sure they enjoyed it this morning. We got a lot to get to on the program today. There's a lot going on in the world of sports right now. Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7 will join us at 6:30. We'll get his thoughts on Tennessee, and I may try to annoy Joe Rexrode as much as possible and throw in a spring football question too. We'll see how that goes. We know how much you love spring football.
Oh boy.
Ball Twitter was on one yesterday. Nico throwing passes against air.
Oh yeah.
At practice, like look at him, look at him spinning that ball out there. Here comes a natty.
Oh God. Well, and I guess Nico's going to play, right?
I guess so.
NCAA's not sitting him down, as far as I know.
They're letting him practice too. How about that?
Wow.
Alex Doherty from the Tennessean will join us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into the Predators with him. Preds back in action tonight, going for game number 15 in a row with a point streak, and going for a win again tonight at home against the San Jose Sharks. Alex will join us at 7 o'clock to talk all things Nashville Predators. We begin with more news on the NFL free agency front. And an interesting move yesterday that was made that I saw some reaction from Titans fans. Some that say, oh, thank God that didn't happen. Some say, oh, we missed out on a big opportunity. Chase Young, edge rusher, signing with the New Orleans Saints. So there was a report last week that Chase Young was scheduled to visit with the Titans on Monday, and it looks like that never happened. He ended up signing with the Saints. A one-year, fully guaranteed $13 million deal, according to Schefter and Jeremy Fowler, that put that out there. So he is joining the New Orleans Saints. So Chase Young, drafted number 2 overall by Washington, ends up being traded to San Francisco. San Francisco gave up a third-round pick for him last year and then let him walk, and now he is with the New Orleans Saints on a one-year, $13 million deal. Now, I saw a couple different reactions to this, Joe. Mike Herndon, our friend of the show, upset that the Titans lost out on this one and that they were not able to make this work with Chase Young. Other Titans fans say, you know what? I just don't know about the motor that guy has. And I kind of put myself in that category. To me, Joe, you've already had a situation in Washington, and I realize that Washington, especially in previous regimes, has been a completely dysfunctional place. And he had some injuries that he dealt with, and that was a big part of his story there too. So, but it didn't work out in Washington. He gets traded to San Francisco. They give up a third-round pick for him, which is, I mean, not inconsequential. And then they immediately let him walk out the door. Kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit to that. So I don't really have much of a problem with the Titans not landing Chase Young. Look, he may go on to have a great career, and obviously the traits he has you can't find every day. But it says something to me that now 2 teams have just let him go, and that he's now on his third team at the age of 24 in the league. That tells me something.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm kind of on a sliding scale of then you weigh that against just the lack of moves and the lack of proven quality up front in this defense. And I would fall in the camp of, yeah, take a flyer. Now, I do think that with a guy like Chase Young, and I have no idea. I mean, I guess basically you can look at the Niners like basically he was a rental player. You know, I mean that happens. You know, I mean that happens in the NHL sometimes, right? Like a team will give up a third or something or whatever, and you know, take a run at it and see what happens and move on. I like I do feel like it would be if the Titans were, I guess, maybe had a little bit more veteran presence on defense, you'd feel a little better about a guy like that. And obviously they have Simmons, they have Landry, but like Byard's gone and some of these other guys, and even like just a new coaching staff and everything makes it a little maybe shakier. But I still would have opted for the talent personally.
Well, and look, there's no question he's talented. The other thing I'll say about the Niners thing that makes me kind of question it a little bit is it's not like they couldn't afford him. Like, they brought him in. He was there. They gave up a third-round pick. And then they went out and signed Leonard Floyd. Like, they signed Leonard Floyd, who's 31 years old. Now, granted, Leonard Floyd's a really good player. But they signed Leonard Floyd to come in and said, yeah, Chase, we'll see you later. And you got a 24-year-old pass rusher right in your back pocket that you gave up a third-round pick for, and they opted to say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We'll pay more money and go get Leonard Floyd.
Yeah. Look, obviously he hasn't been overall what he was supposed to be. I mean, he was supposed to be like a superstar. That's what he was in college. That's what he was drafted to be. He's had production. He's got talent. You can see it. And then there were a couple plays in the playoffs where he was dogging it with the Niners that people made a big deal. And I'm not saying they should have made a big deal out of it. It's not great, It's the playoffs, man.
He made some plays in the Super Bowl, though.
Right. That's the thing. Then you have that, and you're like, well, he's talented. I'm with you. That probably tells you something. I just kind of like I like the 1-year prove-it deal. I mean, I was a little surprised to see the 13 guaranteed.
Yeah.
Fully guaranteed there for the Saints. But I like to me, it's like, look, man, like if you want to get that big deal, this year is the year that you have to put everything out there, right? Yep. So that's exactly what I would have liked to have seen the Titans do. Just 1 year, prove it. This is going to set you up or not, here or somewhere else for the rest of your career. Like, this is the pivotal year in your career. And I believe a guy with that kind of talent probably responds to that. You would freaking hope so.
Well, I hope so. And the other part where this is the part that I do, like, if you're a Titans fan, I understand this thought process. I mean, you've got the money, right? If it's a 1-year deal,
absolutely,
why not spend it and take a flyer on a guy like it? So I understand that part of it. I personally just don't have high hopes that Chase Young is going to live up to what he's supposed to be. So it's not – I don't have a huge problem with the Titans not getting in there. But I do understand, like, the fan base part of it in terms of, well, you got all this money. Why don't you just go spend it and see if it doesn't work out, whatever. It's a 1-year deal, and you move on after that.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the thing. I don't expect the Titans to just spend to spend. They've said it, and it's never been wrong. You don't just spend to spend. This is one of those examples of, could you miss? Obviously, you got Ridley, and so that's going to take away from something else. But you also haven't gotten a corner. You didn't pull off the Snead trade, which, by the way, Diana Rossini on our football show with Robert Mays kind of laid that out, how close it was. Like, it was very close last week that the Titans were trading for L'Jarius Snead. But you didn't do that. You haven't been able to get any of these other, like, D linemen up front. So there's plenty of money. Again, you don't spend to spend. To me, this is an example of worth a shot, I think. Worth a shot. And I don't know, what else there is out. There's not a ton out there right now.
That's the thing.
To help your defense.
Well, and now Titans fans are going to be paying pretty close attention to Chase Young and what he does in New Orleans, right? If he goes out there and he has 11 sacks next year and you're like, oh, okay, well, probably should have involved yourself in those discussions a little bit more. If he goes out there and he's plays 5 games and has 1 sack on the year, it's like, oh, whew, thank God that didn't happen.
Right.
Like I saw a lot of people making the Vic Beasley comparison yesterday on Twitter. And I understand the comparison, but as you pointed out yesterday, a bit of a significant talent difference in terms of Vic Beasley and Chase Young. Chase Young, infinitely more talented than Vic Beasley is.
Yeah.
I don't know about all the other stuff.
Yeah, he's a lot more talented. And even like the year before Beasley came, it was like, what's going on here with this guy?
Yeah.
Like, does this guy want to play anymore? There was talk in Atlanta that he was going to leave and start a church and just stop playing football. I mean, Chase Young had some plays last year. You're like, and like you said, all the stuff we've just talked about. But like you said, he was making plays in a Super Bowl. I mean, it's different than what Vic Beasley was doing the year before he got here. And as it turns out, some of the stories, it was It was a Bussin' with the Boys, right?
Yeah.
Some of the stories about Vic Beasley. I mean, couldn't have cared less.
Pretty clearly did not want to be there.
Yeah, or
Just
anyway.
collecting a check.
Yeah. So there's some pretty big differences. I get the comparison, but there's some pretty big differences.
615-737-1025, our phone number. So it does lead to the question, what are the Titans going to look like on defense? Could they be bad on the defensive side of the football? What moves are left to be made to help out the defense? We'll get into all that. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. You could say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every single game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I told you yesterday, I think this is the year Purdue breaks through. I think that after all the stuff they've been through in the tournament, I think this is the year it all pays off for them and they win the Natty. But you could take it any way you want to take it. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, whatever you want to do. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/Rob and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tomorrow night as Vanderbilt women's basketball takes on Columbia in the women's NCAA tournament. Pre-game at 7:45, tip-off at 8 o'clock. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com. I think we all need Vanderbilt women to win that game. We can't have the Columbia women winning against Vanderbilt.
I hadn't even thought about the Kuharski angle on that.
Yeah.
How dare you contest my Columbia Lions?
He'd be something on Wednesday if that happens. Come on, Vanderbilt. Don't let it happen.
Insufferable is already the default, so imagine that.
Does he even know if they're playing them?
That's a good question.
Well, who
I don't
knows? Yeah, he's pretty locked in on the NFL. But yes, Vanderbilt. Let's not open the door for Kuharski trash talk.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The Titans, I guess, losing out, if that's what you want to call it, on Chase Young to the Saints. They signed Chase Young to a 1-year, $13 million deal. So Chase Young stuff aside, Joe, it does beg the question, what are exactly are the Titans going to look like on the defensive side of the football next season? They've made some moves this offseason. We've talked about, adding to the cornerback room and to the inside linebacker room. They still need, in my opinion, another inside linebacker. They could probably use another corner, and they certainly need some help on the defensive line. There's no question about that. So right now, this looks like a defense that's got some significant holes in it, and that could be a problem for this Titans team. Now, there's still time to fill those holes. Free agency still going on, and, of course, there's the NFL draft. They've got a new DC in Denard Wilson coming in, so we'll see the way that he wants to play and how that translates to what they look like on the field. But what's your concern level at the moment with the defensive side of the ball, the roster the way it's constructed, and the holes that are still left to fill on the roster?
Yeah, well, it's significant. You look at on the D line right now. You've got. I'm going through the list. I'm going through the roster. You've got guys like, and some of these, I'm not even sure totally contractual status with all these guys, but Marlon Davidson and Kyle Pecco, and Ross Blacklock and Keandre Coburn, and it's Jeffrey Simmons. The defensive line right now is Jeffrey Simmons.
Yep.
And a lot of need. Now I do believe, there will be more signings in free agency, and this wave of free agency is always like there'll be a signing and then you're like, "Oh yeah, that guy. Okay. Maybe he's still good." I saw Leighton Vander Esch retired yesterday. He's had, like the neck stuff, which is terrible. But
yep.
I think there's at inside linebacker, there was a guy who was out there. If he wasn't going to retire, like, oh wow, man, wonder what he's got left. There will be signings there, maybe at linebacker. Corner. That's the thing. It's like some of the text lines like, well, now this free agency is Callahan and the offense, and the draft is going to be Denard Wilson's. Well, I think the draft is going to be left tackle, I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
And then maybe after that, maybe that's how they look at it. They got Ridley, they've got Burks, and they've got whoever they sign NWI. Maybe that's how they look at it. It's going to have to be a Tavondre Sweat, or there's edge guys too that they could look at, something like that. But they need a number one corner, and they need another outside starting level good corner. I guess you could call Cheeto a number one corner. I like that it's Cheeto.
Yeah, we're going Cheeto.
Cheeto is pretty awesome.
Apparently a Woozy too. Not a Woozy.
It's not a Woozy A.
Yeah, a Woozy.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Cheeto.
Our apologies to Cheeto.
Yes. They badly need, again, another real force up front and a corner. And if you were able to address those effectively, then I think you could be okay on defense. But how are you going to address both of those effectively?
It's hard to imagine, especially it goes back to it, and we bring it up all the time. But it's a heck of a year to not have a third-round pick. Like, you need all the picks that you can get heading into this year. So, to me, I said it the other day, to me they shouldn't be done at wide receiver, but they may have to be. The need right now on the defensive line is pretty glaring, right? Like you said, it's Jeffrey Simmons, and that's about it. So we know they need a left tackle. You've got to get a left tackle in the draft. They need help on the defensive line. So maybe it is as simple as you're going left tackle at 7 and you're going defensive line help or edge rusher at number 38. That may be the way you have to go based on the way your needs have fallen to this point. Look, the edge rusher part of this, I do feel good about Harold Landry heading
Sure.
into next season. Arden Key is not what you hoped he would be in training camp when you saw him like, oh, my God, Arden Key is just terrorizing Andre Dillard. What does it mean? Well, it turns out it means that Andre Dillard's not very good, which, by the way, they actually released him.
Yeah, we should mention that. Yeah,
it's good.
He's been cut. He's been cut.
So, I mean, you've got that. It's not like you don't have bodies there. I mean, Weaver is still a part of this thing too, but you need a starting level edge rusher, in my opinion, as well. So there's a lot of work left to be done, and I don't know how much of that's going to come in free agency based on that first wave being gone now. And you don't have a ton of draft capital to address it all. So we've talked about in the offseason, you're probably not going to be able to address everything. And I don't know by the time training camp rolls around if the Titans are going to be able to adequately fill all of these holes on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, like at edge, like Rashad Weaver is a guy who can start for you. You'd prefer him to be a depth guy. Like you said, Key has his moments. It's like they've got some guys there. I'm interested in Caleb Murphy with a good offseason, a young guy who does have some juice, So you certainly have to add to that. Maybe that's the spot. That's the thing. It's like, where do you invest big? What's your best? Because, look, I don't buy for a minute. Anybody who's saying look, of course you have a big picture in mind if you're the Titans. You're not going to completely get to everything and get this roster in tip-top shape this offseason, but trying to win this year. So you are absolutely trying to win this year. So what's of those spots, a starting corner, outside corner, another edge guy, and a D tackle, like where do you have to invest? I would argue number one would be D tackle, like D line. Like seriously, it's Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah. I would say that that's probably accurate. And then I'd probably go corner after that. Like inside linebacker, they need another one, but we've talked about this. Like that position feels like it's more easily replaceable than some of the other ones. If Jack Gibbons is the starting inside linebacker, do I feel good about that? No, but
I don't feel awful about it.
Right?
Yeah,
it's not like it's just a
it.
total disaster out there. And these other positions, right? I mean, the Titans. And Corey Curtis brought this up yesterday with us. They have kind of underratedly had some good players, not great players, but good players on that defensive line next to Jeffrey Simmons. Now, obviously, Autry is the one that has been outstanding.
They found some other good guys.
But even some other good guys. Austin Johnson was okay here. Tier Tart, before it went off the deep end with him, was really good here. So they've had some guys there that have been able to step in there and play adequate snaps for them. I don't know where that's coming from right now based on the roster they currently have. I've heard some people throw out, Yannick Ngakoue. Could the Titans be interested in him? He's been a guy that's bounced around all over the place. He's had a productive
at an amazing
career.
rate.
And then last year, 13 games, 4 sacks. Now, he did play for the Chicago Bears, and I guess you just go into like a black hole when you go to the Chicago Bears.
Give anybody an asterisk if they play with the Bears.
Yeah, maybe a change of scenery. He had 9.5 sacks the year before. But, Ngakoue, one of the things we've always brought up with him is why in the world has he bounced around all over the place everywhere he's been? Like, he was in Jacksonville for 4 years, and then it's been Minnesota, Baltimore, the Raiders, the Colts, and the Bears in a 4-year span. That's a lot of teams.
He's trying to set a record, so the Titans could be part of that. I mean, again, there's another one where it's like, okay, I don't hate it. I mean, you have to get some guys. But, yeah, that wouldn't be exciting. Nothing's going to be exciting in free agency from now on. It's just the best case is that, okay, yeah, maybe that'll work out.
Hey, Bud Dupree, Jadeveon Clowney, both still out there. I'm just saying. They're both out there. Clowney had a good year.
Clowney was good last year.
Yeah. Can you imagine they brought Jadeveon Clowney back in here?
No, but
Jadeveon.
What about Bud Dupree at a super low rate?
What did he even do last year? I don't remember hearing Bud Dupree's name one time.
Yeah, not a lot. Bud Dupree is.
He did have 6.5 sacks, which is better than I thought.
Okay.
16 games, 6.5 sacks.
Okay, that's not terrible. He's definitely, and who knows? I mean, the knee injury certainly has to be considered, but I think he's probably a very good example of overwhelming great player on one side, production over here, benefits from it, and gets overpaid because of it.
Ty on the text line says, Murphy, going to be a surprise. No fluke that he's the all-time sack leader in college. He was a one-weapon guy that's added more over the last year. He is intriguing. Now, obviously, they felt like he wasn't ready to play last year, but they've also felt like what he showed them in the preseason was good enough to, keep him around and try to develop him. I mean, he did have 1,000 sacks in college, so it is worth seeing what he can do.
At Butch Jones's alma mater, Ferris State. All due respect to my home state, Ferris State, but keep that in mind. But
sacks in the preseason.
He's interesting. Yeah, no, I think he's a nice guy to have around. Young guys, see what you can get, and new D coordinator come in here and see what happens. Kelton's asking if Farley's still on the roster. He is.
He is.
So to me, with him, with all the injuries, take away the tragedies in his life, which are just unbelievable. But I think the story with Caleb Farley is, can he stick around the league in some capacity? It's not, is he the answer at corner?
Right.
The injuries are too extensive and all over the place, I think, to think that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7. We'll get his thoughts on Rick Barnes and Tennessee as they head into the NCAA tournament later this week. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Tournament time is upon us, and the Vols are in action coming up on Thursday. To help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7. Wes, good morning. How are we doing?
Doing all right. How y'all doing this morning?
We're great, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Wes, the bracket is out. We know what the opponent for the first round looks like for Tennessee was St. Peter's. What did you make of Tennessee's part of the bracket and the way their draw kind of went down with the NCAA tournament here?
Yeah, I think you can always have like a little bit of gripe with something here or there, but I don't think it's unfair or anything. I think Tennessee got a pretty decent draw. St. Peter's, famous last words, but that looks like a pretty good matchup for Tennessee there. I think they're 21 or 22-point favorites for a reason. And then the next day, it's kind of funny. Barnes was just joking whether they were going to give him Texas or Clemson, and they gave him Texas. So, if Texas gets there, I guess it could be Virginia or NC State. And then if you go down the line, then, Creighton, it's not like a terrible matchup there. It's what it should be. It's March. It's not easy, but I don't think it's a terrible draw for Tennessee by any means.
No, I agree. I think they're better off still with the one just in the West, but I thought they were going to get hosed and get stuck in the East with UConn, which instead Kentucky and Auburn got that, right?
I think
Kentucky
really got it.
Wait, is Kentucky in the East? Maybe not.
I don't think so.
No, Kentucky's in the West.
Kentucky's in the West. See, there you go. Give me don't worry. I'll get up to speed by Saturday after the game's been played for a couple days. But I think it's not a terrible draw. I'm with you, Wes. I will say that we all need to. We're not supposed to cheer on press row, but we need to cheer hard for Virginia to lose and really to not even be in this tournament, so we don't have to watch them play any basketball in Charlotte. That's just my personal feeling. But the Vols, where do you think they are just in terms of, is it good that they played the way they did and got embarrassed the way they did Friday? How much of a concern do you have for these role players not hitting shots lately?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't concern there, Joe. I thought going into the tournament that Auburn would win it. I just kind of liked the way Auburn was playing, and I thought they kind of had that little chip on the shoulder. They were playing pretty hard there late in the year. They just looked to me like they might win the thing, but I thought Tennessee would at least get to Auburn. I didn't expect Mississippi State to go the way it did, although in hindsight, you know what, Joe, maybe we should have. That's the only team in the league Tennessee hadn't beat all season. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe that's just a matchup thing for Tennessee. But, the way they played, I don't think anybody expected that. To just sit there and kind of let it, not take it, but they fought back all season long. Even when they didn't win those games, they came back and made them interesting all year long. And that one, they just didn't do it. And so you kind of kept waiting for when are they going to get off the mat, and they didn't. So, yeah, that's problematic. Some of the missed shots there, some of the guys just turning the ball over, becoming unplayable there for a bit. Yeah, it's not great. I've seen teams, kind of stink it up in the conference tournament and then go on big runs. We all have, but with this team's postseason history, I don't think you would have wanted to take one on the chin like that going into the tournament. That's not a great sign, but might mean nothing. We'll see.
So, Wes, on the Vescovy front, how do you get him going if you're Rick Barnes and this coaching staff offensively? And I guess secondarily to that, how important do you think it is that they do get him going this time of year?
It's important. Can they win without it? Maybe, but it makes it a lot easier if they have him. And in terms of what they do, I don't know that they have any more ideas. They've tried – Love, they've tried tough love. They've tried showing him videos of all the shots he's made at Tennessee, which is like, 1 billion threes that he's made during his career with Tennessee. They've tried everything, and it just, for some reason, it just has been that kind of year where he's had a couple moments, but he really dedicated himself to being a different kind of player once they got connect. And it's like, okay, buddy, good job kind of accepting your different role, but you still got to make some shots. And so, yeah, the concerning thing for me is that State was the first team, I think, all season that really kind of left him out there. Other teams all year long have still kind of rushed him off the line or been really tight on him because they were worried about what he could do. State was kind of like, here, you can have those shots if you want them, and he didn't make them, and that is problematic. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm out of options or out of ideas there at this point, but I think you just go into games hoping that he plays well and makes them, and if not, then you kind of got to decide do you want to keep him out there or not.
Yeah, he did have a couple that went like halfway down, but I mean that's where we are now. Is we're talking about Vescovy shots that almost go in. And now nobody shot well, Wes, but I feel like between the three of those guys, Vescovy, James, and then Gainey off the bench, like I feel like at least one of them has to give you a few buckets in a big game against a good team, right? To advance. You do the math, and I don't think they can be all right just leaning on Connect and Ziegler to hit all the shots. If you agree with that, first of all, let me know if you do. And then also, who of those three do you have the most confidence in right now?
That's a really good question. I'm right now, Joe, I don't got a lot of confidence in any of them, to be honest with you. That doesn't mean they can't do it, but, you don't need 30 points from those three. What you need is about 15, 16, 18 points. If you can get that many points between the three of them, then then you get what you get from Connect and obviously Ziegler, and then hopefully Adu. If those three guys are scoring reasonably well, then you can, between those next four guys, right, between that whole three guys you mentioned in Meshack, you can get like 20, 25 points between those three guys. You're going to be just fine almost all the time. You just got to get it. And so I think if you're Barnes, what you do is obviously you play them all early. You see who's kind of making shots. And if none of the guys are making shots, then you probably play Vescovy and James because at least they're the best defensive players that you got out there. So you probably roll with those guys a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it's really, really interesting. And I'd be lying if I told you I expected, Vescovy and James to kind of, go out like this. I hope for their sake they don't, because they've done a lot of good things at Tennessee, and you'd rather not go out kind of timidly if you're going to go out. So I hope they get it figured out, but at this point, I don't know that you can assume that.
Wes Rucker with us here on Robby and Rexrode. So, Wes, we were talking about this yesterday. Obviously, this is a veteran team, guys that have played a lot of basketball, a lot of big games for this group, even this year on the road in some places that they've gone in hostile environments and won. One thing I do wonder about with them, though, if things, and maybe not in the St. Peter's game, but at some point here early on, if things start to go bad for them and they're trailing, 13-4 to start a game, or they're down at halftime, does the mental part of this start to creep in? Does the pressure get to them? How equipped do you think this group is to deal with that in tournament time?
Yeah, that's a good question, Robby. I think I look back at, you don't want one game to kind of say that changes everything, and I don't think it's fair to say that. But I never wondered about this group in games like that until that state game, because all year long, even when they've lost games like that, boy, they've fought back, haven't they? I mean, the first state game, UNC, there's been a lot of games this season where even if they, Kentucky, they even came back and nearly committed highway robbery in that one. I mean, they've had moments this season where they've come back and won or been down by a lot and come back and made things interesting. State was really the first time I can recall, unless I'm missing one off the top of my head, which is possible at this time of the morning. But I think they came back and made them interesting every time, but that time they didn't. And that is, you want to say just flush it and forget it and move on, but it's that time of year, right? And you don't want to have a here we go again moment, but that's the concern with this group, right? Are they haunted by the ghosts of the past? Is this coaching staff haunted by ghosts of the past? Or can they prove that because they have Superman this season that they can avoid that? Because they have Zakai Ziegler this season, they can avoid that. I mean, you want them to think that they can do that, but I think right now they kind of have to prove that, don't they?
No doubt. And also I think, a guy who I thought he rebounded, but I think you see, to me, the clear matchup issue is a physical big who can score. And they've played good games against Edey and Purdue and Dickinson and Kansas, lost them, Baycott, North Carolina, but I still feel like that's the clearest matchup thing. I feel like Adu, he's been good this year, but he really needs to step it up. Where do you think he is if they get into another matchup like that, as they probably will at some point moving forward against a really good center?
Yeah, Joe, I had become less worried about that in some ways until the very first few minutes of that state game, where you saw him take his first 2 shots and he was falling away on both of them when he didn't really have to. And that got me thinking, I don't know what kind of day this is going to be for the Giraffe. It just when he's falling back when he doesn't have to, that kind of makes you wonder what kind of shape he's in mentally to go into a matchup. Because at times, because of his size, people are going to go right through his chest. I mean, the guy's 6'11" and 85 pounds. At some point, he's built differently, right? He's worked harder and he's gotten better, but at some point, guys can go right through his chest. That's okay as long as he does what he does on the other end, and you give as much as you get, right? But that's the concern is a physical guy of that nature. And then they tried to go in the game. They tried to go earlier to Awaka. And I tell you, Awaka just the Monstars got in his brain. I don't know what happened with him in Nashville, but you couldn't keep him on the floor because he was that problematic. He couldn't handle the ball without turning it over. He did that thing that he did throughout his first season at Tennessee where he would catch the ball and have no idea what to do with it. And then teams would swarm him and he'd turn it over. And those kind of things you just can't have. You can't be that kind of a liability. So between the two of them, you got to have at least one of those guys playing pretty well. And I think most games they'll get that. But, yeah, they'll get to one of those matchups where they're going to foul out or they're going to, give up some points because they're going to get bullied. The Tolu Smiths and the Edeys and the Dickinsons and those types of guys. They have to hold their own or at least not get blown by in those matchups. And that's a concern because you start doing math, right? Basketball is a math sport. And if Tennessee just gets bullied in the paint or gets bullied at the free throw line, that's where you have to have Connect and Ziegler go for 60 or the math doesn't work out. You know what I mean? That's when that happens. So you don't want to go into a game thinking you're caked in like a 15-point deficit at the free throw line in the paint. That's hard to win like that. But they may run into a game this season where that happens, and they have to overcome that.
Wes, it's going to be fun to watch. Appreciate so much you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, guys. You know that.
Wes Rucker from GoVols 24/7, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll continue to look ahead to Tennessee in the NCAA tournament coming up next. Alex Doherty from the Tennessean will join us at 7 o'clock to get into the Nashville Predators as they go for a point streak of 15 games tonight. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Thanks to Wes Rucker from GoVols 24/7 for being with us in the last segment. I got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to see Stevie Nicks at Bridgestone Arena coming up on May 14th. Be caller 3, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a pair of tickets to see Stevie Nicks at Bridgestone Arena coming up on May 14th. Wes sounded a little down on the Vols.
What? I know. Wes. Make it sound like they're about to lose to St. Peter's. No, but those are, seriously, though, those are all
valid concerns.
Yeah, valid concerns. I totally, I was sitting next to Mike Wilson for the Mississippi State game, and it's the same, like, we both said the same thing he said, too. Like, early on, it's like, Adu's kind of shying away there a little bit, can't have it, and it totally played out. Janai Broom earlier this year, that's a guy who went through his chest a couple times, and I agree that happens, but you play to your strengths. He's got that length and touch around the basket. He can score it. He can rebound it, and, they need him to play well. And then Awaka, I agree. Awaka was just totally victimized that game. No, that's a strength. Most nights, that's a strength. Both those guys give you a different look. Awaka's a lot more physical, not as long, so he can get his shot blocked. He's not a rim protector like Adu is, but he's a guy who can go in there, put a little drop step on you, and muscle in a bucket, get rebounds. A fantastic rebounder. His rebounding numbers are off the charts in terms of, 40 minutes per game. He'd be close to leading the country. So they can be strengths, but they need to be strengths. And then, the concern about where else are you getting points? You need somebody to get hot of those three shooters. And I don't know that I call James even a shooter, but he can shoot, and he's going to get shots, and he's got to hit some shots.
To me, this is all about Tennessee's mental toughness and what we're going to see. Sure, sometimes you can be locked in, and you can just have a terrible shooting night, and then you're done in the NCAA tournament. And I'm not going to discount that being a possibility for Tennessee. But they are clearly better than every team they can possibly face here until they get to Purdue. They're clearly the better team on this side of the bracket than every team they're going to play until they get to Purdue.
Creighton's really good.
Creighton's good, but Tennessee is better than Creighton.
Tennessee's better. Yeah.
So it's not that you can't lose, but to me it's a lot about how locked in are you, how able are you to respond to moments when things don't go your way. Can you stem the tide when that starts to happen and reestablish your own momentum in the game? That's what the great teams do. They're able to survive runs from the other team and create runs of their own. And to Wes's point, we have seen that from Tennessee this year. And that, to me, has been really encouraging. And then you have something like Friday happen, and you're like, okay, well, what does that all mean when you get to this time of year? But to me, we're going to find out a lot about not only the Rick Barnes part of this, but it's a veteran group. These guys have been through a lot of basketball. They played a lot of basketball together, a lot of high-pressure games. Do they have the mental toughness to get through this thing here and to play their best brand of basketball when they need it the most? That's what, to me, this is about, because talent-wise, they ought to be in the Elite Eight. We talked about that yesterday. They are the better team until they get to Purdue, and then we'll see what happens there. But do they have the mental toughness to get through it? And then the other part of that, as I said to start this long diatribe I'm on right now, can you avoid just the disastrous shooting night? Because we've seen that undo teams in the NCAA tournament as well.
Yeah, and we've seen it undo them. It's, again, 2 years ago. It's just actually guy who's fired now, but I thought he did a really good job, Michigan coach Juwan Howard, in that game of saying, you know what, we can't guard Kenny Chandler. He keeps just getting to the rim or setting somebody up for an easy bucket. We're going to zone him, and James Vescovy, they're going to get wide open corner threes. And if they beat us, then that's it. And they couldn't hit one, And that's why I look at Gainey. He's not part of that whole thing. It's his first year. Because I think Connect is going to be good. I don't know if he's going to shoot from outside great, but he's going to attack. He's going to play a lot better than he did the other day. Ziegler, I don't worry about Ziegler. Ziegler has that mental toughness. If you could take Ziegler, he doesn't always make the right play, but if you could take Ziegler's mindset and give it to everybody else, then I'll crown him right now the national champions, But I'm with you. So much of this tournament is mental. I think Gainey's a guy. Go back to the Alabama game. They were kind of in a lull offensively. I think maybe Connect got in foul trouble in that game, but he wasn't going. And Gainey was a guy who started going downhill, got to the rim, got to the line, then he hit a couple shots and kind of kept the offense together there until until Connect got it going and everything. So I think there's a guy who has had some really good moments, really good games, and doesn't have that history, dragging him down. So I look to him as maybe a key guy, but they need at least one of those guys, like I said, to hit 3 in a row. You're going to get some shots. Opposing defensive strategies are going to let some of those guys take shots. You got to hit some.
Yeah.
It's basketball. I mean, sometimes it's just that simple.
How much of a boost would it be if at some point here they can just get Vescovy going, where he could start, I'm not saying scoring 20 a game, but hitting a couple threes, give you 12, get 12 points in a game, hit a couple big shots and big moments. How big would that be for this team?
So I've seen it. I'll go back 19 years. Michigan State had a guy named Chris Hill. Everybody loved him. Senior, had been a great player, had been their leading scorer previously, and had kind of been passed over by some more talented players, Shannon Brown, Maurice Ager, guys like that. And in the turn, they got to the Final Four, kind of a surprise run, and he hit a few threes, and it was like the whole bench went nuts because it's like, oh my God, Chris Hill hit some threes. You see that at times, and this could turn out to benefit them if he can just get a couple to go down. I mean, everybody on this team loves Vescovy. He does so much for the team. He's a great all-around basketball player, and they used to run their offense through him.
Yeah.
So if he gets a couple to go down, yes. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean all of a sudden he's going to go on a tear, but that's emotionally a big thing for the team.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Alex Doherty of the Tennessean. Preds back in action tonight against the San Jose Sharks. We'll get Alex's thoughts on what he's seeing from the Preds, how dangerous they could be, maybe come playoff time. All that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode. Nick Keys are here with you on this Tuesday morning. Pred's back in action tonight, going for game number 15 in a row to extend this point streak against the San Jose Sharks. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Alex Doherty from the Tennessean. Alex, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had to set a couple of alarms this morning. Ever since Joe's mini coma, I've decided to take precautions and make sure I wake up in time.
Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
That's a good way to put it. Mini coma. That's about what it was too.
Is Joe okay? Okay.
Yeah, Joe. You need one of those World War II Blitzkrieg sirens by your bed. Is what you need.
Really get him up and moving.
Good Lord.
You taking one to Charlotte?
I'm on a week run of getting up on time.
You are?
So,
That's good.
We're really on a roll.
There you
here.
go.
That's good. So, Alex, obviously, this team is playing really good hockey right now. We went through the numbers yesterday, and pretty much any way you want to slice it over the last month, they've been one of the best teams in the league, be that points, goals per game, goals against per game. They're playing really well right now. So, let's say they continue to play at a reasonably good clip here. They make the playoffs. How dangerous is this team come playoff time in your mind?
I think we're getting to the point where you have to say that they'd be pretty dangerous. You can no longer say this team would just be happy to be there and just making the playoffs would be a celebration in itself. I think, and the biggest thing for this team is that, for most of this year, they were a one-line team. They were pretty much just Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, and if that line wasn't getting it done, then that was it. Then it was probably a loss. And now they have 4 lines, all of which are contributing in multiple ways. They have a defense group that has finally settled into something, even though they're going through some injuries right now. And then their goaltending is back. So, those are the pieces that you need to be dangerous in the playoffs, right? You need to have offense coming from multiple lines. You need all lines to be good defensively. You need your 6 defensemen to all be pretty good, and then you need your goaltending to be as good as it can possibly be. And we've seen all of that right now. So now the matchups themselves are. There's a lot of options there. It's pretty much could either be Vancouver, Winnipeg, Dallas, or Colorado. All 4 of those are in the mix. They're all not great, but because they're all good teams. But I feel like in any case, whoever they potentially match up with in the playoffs, they're going to make that opposing team sweat. It's not going to be a steamroll. They're going potentially. There's 14 games left or whatever in the regular season. They're gonna roll into it with some momentum. So you feel like you would be a team that other opponents wouldn't want to play in the first round. That's what it feels like right now.
So how much, Alex, do you think this is like systemic improvement, or I guess a adaptation to the system? And if that's largely the case, then how good could this be as this team gets more talented under Andrew Brunette?
I think this is a lot of Andrew Brunette coming out and still remain kind of on the back end, pretty solid. Shows me that I think Brunette's system is really starting to click. And then you've also seen some things on the power play that I think finally, the power play itself has been kind of strange to watch this year. There's been so many changes and so many things, that have worked, that haven't worked. But even that, I think you're starting to see okay, they're finally starting to click a little bit. It's not like it's, a top 10 or anything, but it's not bad. It's not an awful unit. So I think to answer your question, if Brunette was to get maybe another couple of off seasons where he gets 2 or 3 more guys that he thinks would just fit perfectly into his system, then you're talking about what the Florida Panthers are right now. What Colorado might is, what Dallas is. You're talking about a legit cup contending team if they are able to play this level with talent that is premier talent up and down the lineup. I think that it would only progress naturally to being a top 5 team in the league, I think.
So on the Yossi front, he's obviously playing great right now. A great game for him the other night. And you look at the points that have just been rolling in for him. He's got 17 goals. He's playing great offensively. Defensively, the whole team right now is locked in. For all year long, it's basically been Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar in some form or fashion in terms of the Norris Trophy conversation. And look, both those guys have had great years, and they're deserving all those things. But where do you think Roman Josi is in that discussion right now? Where do you think he should be in that discussion right now?
Yeah, I think there's pretty much no question he should be a finalist right now. I mean, and here's what I'll say: watching the Norris Trophy voting over the last several years, there's so much recency bias in that stuff. I mean, if you have a hot start to the season but a cold second half, you might not even be in the finalists. But because Josi is doing it this way, where he's getting this second half surge, it's just naturally the way the voting works. They're gonna look at him more. There's a reason why. Well, one of the reasons I think why Josi was left off ballots in that year where he had 96 points was because he kind of was just steady throughout the whole year. He didn't have a real hot end or a hot start. So this kind of surge where he's got something like 18 points in this 12 game or 14 game stretch, that'll do it. I think that's what you need, because it's not always just about on paper who has the most points, who has the best defensive statistics, who has the most hits, who has the most time on ice. It rarely is about that. I mean, you're dealing with humans that vote and they look for certain things, and when this guy's name keeps popping up this late in the season, it's just natural. People are going to start voting for him. So, I mean, right now, I think the North finalists are going to be Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, and Roman Josi. That's what I would predict right now.
What do you think of the new guys, the new forwards, and the impact they're making so far, Alex?
Well, the production is not there, but outside of Jason Zucker's goal the other night. But I think that line is really interesting with Sissons in the middle, because those guys. I think it's pretty clear that what Barry Trotz wanted to do was to get faster and to get speed that can go up and down the ice, play a full game. I think Beauvillier is the one that I'd like to see, him maybe be a little bit more, see his finishing kind of improve in the offensive end. He made the mistake against Minnesota, but I don't think that had anything to do with him. I think anyone could have made that. That was a great play by Ryan Hartman. So I like what I've seen. Jason Zucker, I think, is the one that could really be the difference maker, I think, in the playoffs. I mean, that guy has another speed, and he's not that. He's obviously older, but he's not that old. I mean, he's 32, I think, 33 maybe, and I think he's still got another gear. I like them. I don't think they're going to be they're not going to run away with it and lead the team to the next level or anything. But I think it was a good move. And if you look at the change from going from Zucker or going from Jakob Trenin, a bigger guy, not as fast, but physical, to getting these speed guys in Beauvillier and Zucker. I think it was a great move. You got to get fast in the playoffs, especially with some of these teams you could potentially face.
Alex, last thing for you. I continue on a nightly basis to watch Nyquist play, and I'm just blown away with what I'm seeing out there. He's got 59 points, 18 goals right now, 68 games played. He's on pace for 71 points at 34 years old. I realize he's playing with Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly, and that's a heck of an opportunity for him. But a lot of nights he's driving the offense. How I guess, surprised are you that we've seen this level of success from him for as long as we have this season, where he's on pace to get 70 points?
Yeah, very, very surprised. This is probably the best surprise outside of maybe Ryan O'Reilly. Although I think Ryan O'Reilly, we knew that he was going to be a steady presence. You mentioned Forsberg. I think we have to put Forsberg, give him, if we're assigning some sort of responsibility pie here, I think we got to give Forsberg a lot of the responsibility for Nyquist's production, especially the assists. But he's almost got 20 goals. I mean, going into the season, if you said that you would get almost 20 goals from Gustav Nyquist, and then just that many assists, you'd be fine with that. And he's doubled that in assists. So, and the other thing is he's solidified a top line the entire season. When was the last time that this team had one line that was consistent for the top line the entire season? I think even the
President's Trophy here?
Well, maybe, but even that, I mean, even the Jofa line, like they had injuries to deal with. They weren't consistently every single year, but it probably is that. But I mean, if you look at, I mean, they've been together since early November, I think, is when that change happened. So I mean, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, Nyquist has been a great addition, and I don't think anyone saw 70-point season coming from him.
Well, Alex, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us, and we'll see if the Preds get point streak number 15 in a row tonight as they take on the lowly San Jose Sharks. These are always interesting games.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at Money Puck, and Money Puck says for the Sharks tonight, it says, this is a completely meaningless game for the Sharks. That's what it says. So dangerous opponent tonight.
Either way.
Sharks 4, Preds 2. All right, there we go.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you, bud.
All right, see you guys.
Alex Doherty from the Tennessee and our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your thoughts on the Preds. They're going against the Sharks tonight. They had kind of a tough game against San Jose a few weeks ago in their barn. We'll see what that looks like tonight. A lot of your thoughts to get to on the Preds, 615-737-1025. We'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Hey, folks, Joe Rexrode here talking FanDuel, talking the NCAA tournament. Upsets the buzzer beaters. Nothing compares to college basketball in this month of March. My favorite, I could sit here all day and talk about my favorites. But, I mean, think about just recently, like some of the runs we've seen from St. Peter's playing Tennessee again this week, by the way. But sometimes you're on the wrong end of those moments, like Kentucky was against St. Peter's. That's why FanDuel is giving everyone a no-sweat bet from now till March 20th, until tomorrow. Doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or if you have an account. You're going to get bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. You can even use your no-sweat bet on a college basketball parlay. Speaking of St. Peter's in Tennessee, I got a parlay for you, which is Vols. Given those points, I think the Vols are going to respond in this matchup, which is a very good matchup for them. Jonas Adu and Zakai Ziegler both over in points in that game. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app if you don't already have it by going to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First sign line, room and wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable bonus bets. Expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
The teams have been selected, so go to theGameNashville.com/bracket challenge and fill out your bracket to compete. The 102.5 The Game Bracket Challenge brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook, Twin Peaks, and Volunteer Hose and Gasket. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls. Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Thanks to Alex Doherty for being with us in the last segment. So I'm, as we brought up, I'm blown away by Nyquist. And I realize, again, he's playing with two really good players in Forsberg and O'Reilly. He's got 59 points, 68 games. He's on pace for about 71 to close out the regular season here. I mean, it's been incredible what he's been able to do at 34 years old and the fit that he's been on that line. You're talking over 60 games now in a row that line has been together. So first off, their ability to stay healthy with the amount of minutes that they play every night has been very good, but also the consistency that they've played at has been good to see. I mean, look, the bottom line is, like, when you just look at the numbers, there have not been very many lines that compare to what we've seen from this one this year with the Predators. Obviously, you know, when Forsberg and Duchesne were playing together a couple years ago and both of them scored over 40, you know, Granlund was in the middle for most of that. That was a good line. You know, we think about Forsberg, Johansson, Arvidsson, and the run that line had together. You know, Paul Correa was on a couple of good lines here in his day. You know, he got David Legwand to like 60 points, which is he might need to be put in the Hall of Fame just for that. But this line, I mean, this is one of the best lines. It's not hyperbole to say one of the best lines in the history of the franchise from what we've seen this year with Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist. And you know, it's not Nathan McKinnon. It's not Connor McDavid. You know, they don't have like the elite guy on the line. But Forsberg's going to end up with 40 goals again this year and right around probably 80, 85 points. So he's playing at a really high level. And that line, the good news is it's not just all them, as Alex brought up. It's not all them right now through this stretch here. But that line's still playing really well and showing people how dangerous they can be. And Nyquist's been a big part of it.
Yeah, and great point by Alex, too, because that was the first thing that came to mind was the President's Trophy year, but I'm sure, like, Forsberg probably missed 20 games, right? He had a lot of years where he would miss, like, a stretch, miss a chunk.
Yep.
Arvidsson, I don't think it really started getting banged up that much by then. I think of that as the last line where, like, it was the same the whole year. That line was together for a couple of years, basically.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this thing – so essentially it was Parsonen. As soon as Parsonen was moved out, it's been these guys together, right?
Pretty much. I mean,
they've been really freaking good.
They may have tried somebody else up there for like a game. But, yeah, I mean, literally since it's been, I think, like 62 games in a row, something like that now, where they've played together on that line. And it's been – the results are what they are. I mean, Forsberg, he scored the empty netter the other night, 35 goals. So he's got 35 goals, 36 assists, 71 points in 68 games. He's playing great. And, you know, the underrated part of that is, you know, he signs the big deal, and then last year I thought he was okay, and then he got hurt. He got hurt, missed basically the second half of the year last year. So it's easy. It's funny to kind of think about it now based on the year that he's had, but we talked about it heading in the season. I thought this was a huge year for him in terms of living up to that deal. You signed the big contract. It didn't go well for you last year. You're coming off the injury. It's been really good to see him respond the way that he has. This is the best hockey I think he's played, you know, from start to finish this year. He's been healthy. That's been a big part of it too. And I think it makes you feel really good about the rest of that contract based on the way that he's played this year too.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a major response from him, without question. And I don't know, you know, I think until the end of his career, there'll always be coach saying, yeah, when he plays that power forward game, he's a little better. But he's doing that. He's I mean, when he turns it on, he's something to behold. He's a star player in this league. This line has worked obviously well, extremely well together. But also, like Alex said, like it's not just them carrying the whole thing, because they've had great stretches where the team wasn't having great stretches because there wasn't enough support, and it just all seems to be fitting in, which is also interesting to me because you do have some new pieces. You've had some movement and some change in there, and it's just like whatever you're trying right now is working.
Ethan from Lawrenceburg says, at some point you've got to try Zucker with Novak and Evangelista, right? And my response to that is, I don't know if I'd take Jankowski off that line the way that line's going right now. I'd probably leave that line alone. I understand
Don't mess
the
with
thought process.
Jankowski.
Jankowski's playing great. He really is. Like, he's never going to be a 25-goal guy or anything, but he's playing.
But he complements those guys
with those
well.
two is really good. That line, we talk about the Nyquist line. Obviously, that's their best line. Right now, with the way the other lines are going, like McCarron's line's playing really good. I think there's still work to be done with Sissons, Bavillier, and Zucker, and some of that I think is just familiarity and getting used to playing with each other. That Novak line looks really good right now. They're creating a lot of chances offensively, and it's good to see. Novak's found more of his finishing touch, and I think for about 3 weeks now, really for the entirety of this stretch, like Evangelista got scratched in the Dallas game where they got beat 9-2. He got back in against St. Louis, scored a big goal. Ever since he's gotten back in the lineup, he's been great. And that to me is really encouraging because you actually, and I was going through this with Chase the other day, you look at their roster right now of guys who are playing, he's like their one young guy. Everybody talks about how young the team is. It's Evangelista, and that's it right now. He's 22. They don't have a single other player below 26. So he's the young guy that they've got right now, and he's responding really well.
It's a great point. I guess you could look at that. I mean, I'm trying to find a way to be negative about something with this team, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, I guess you could look at that and be concerned a little bit. But I mean, at this point, you're in fully what's the best possible way to win mode because, I mean, this team, I wouldn't want to play this team the way they're playing right now in the playoffs.
No, absolutely. I mean, and I do think there are different stages to it. Like Adam Vingan was on with Willie and D-Mace yesterday talking about matchups. And we did that yesterday too of, Vancouver. They hadn't seen them in a while. Vancouver's not playing great right now. Dallas, I know they got beat 9-2, but they've actually played pretty well against Dallas this year. The one team that if I'm the Predators, I probably am just like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I don't really want a whole lot of part of. It's like I don't want to deal with Nathan McKinnon for 7 games. Like there's just no answer for that guy. So that's the one where I'd be like, ooh, I don't know about that. But even them though, like the Preds are 2-0 against Colorado this year. They got to go to Colorado here. Is that next week? Some point coming up here soon. They go to Colorado. So I do think the other teams are looking at Nashville right now and thinking, man, they're playing really well, and they've got UC Saros in goal. I don't know if we want a big part of that.
Yeah. And that's Colorado is the team that, when you have a team that's done what they've done, sometimes you just expect, okay, they're going to just flip. Like Tampa Bay has been like that team in the past. I know some of that has been injuries, but it's like, yeah, they're going to be there when it really matters in the spring.
Well,
I wouldn't want to mess with them.
Colorado's starting to ramp it up, too, and you can kind of see it in their game. Travis on the text line, is this team considered a really good team yet, or are we as fans still on the mid-team on a heater narrative? My question, I guess, is when do we call a duck a duck? We'll answer that. Take your thoughts on that more when we come back. 615-737-1025, our phone number. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Tune in later this morning at 8:45 for your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. Win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Pick to Click brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold. Preds in action tonight, taking on the San Jose Sharks on a 14-game point streak right now, 12-0-2 in their last 14 games. And with that in mind, Travis's question on the text line, as we talked about before the break, is this team considered a really good team yet? Or are we as fans still on the mid-team on a heater narrative? My question, I guess, is when do we call a duck a duck? We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Like, with each passing game and with each passing win, you start to look around and say, okay, is this ever coming to an end? And I thought Adam Vingan did a really good job yesterday of kind of explaining what's going on here. So over this stretch, you look at not only the results, but the way a team is playing. And sometimes the underlying numbers can help you do that. They're first in the NHL right now over this stretch here of games in goals against, and in expected goals against, they're first. So that tells you that defensively, they are locked in, and they're dialed in right now. It also tells you that their goaltending has gone up a lot, and UC Saros has elevated his level of play, which he has. His expected goals against have gone up too.
But he's not standing on his head.
But he's not standing on his head. It's not like he's out here just, it's not last year where he's just dominating in the second half of the season and is dragging a team to wins along with him. And over the same stretch, they are first, or I think tied for first, in goals for, and they're seventh in terms of expected goals that they've generated. So top 10 in the league of generating chances, and number 1 in the league of keeping chances to a minimum against right now. That tells you that while they're not going to win every game from here on out, they're playing at a pretty high level right now, a high enough level where you look at the results that they're getting and you say, well, it's not really a fluke. They're playing that well right now. So how sustainable is it? I don't know, but, I mean, we're going on 15 games now of a pretty elite level sample size of the way that they're playing.
Yeah, look, I think for sure we can move past, wow, these guys are just on a heck of a heater, and, it's like they're playing way above their level or something. I mean, it's sometimes it's a cliche, but it's, the sum of the parts is better than the part. That's what it is. But even like teams that have the high level talent, usually there's some level of that as well as part of a team that really is great, right? So this team has a top line that we've talked about that's a legit top line in this league, but the role players are all – and then they have the best defenseman in the game right now.
Yeah.
And they have a top whatever, 3-5 goalie again now. So, after that, those are all legit things. After that, is everybody else doing what they're supposed to be doing? Yes. Okay, well, that's a really good team. That's not a fake team that's just playing well.
Yeah, and look, I think the most exciting part about all this, if I'm a Predators fan, would be, I think, the coach. And kind of the coach-GM combo. And look, there's still a lot left to be figured out about both of them. Like, Barry Trotz, at some point, has to find a way, in my opinion, to get the franchise-changing centerman in here, which they've never been able to do. Like, you have to get that at some point. And how he's going to get it, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out. Like, to me, if you're going to be a consistent challenger for a Stanley Cup, you got to find a way to get that. But, the Nyquist move, he clearly identified this offseason as somebody he wanted to bring in. It's worked out great. O'Reilly clearly identified as somebody he wanted to bring in. It's worked out great. So the track record right now of Trotz looks pretty good in terms of deals that he's given out. He didn't give up hardly anything to get Beauvillier and Zucker, so it's not like he went crazy spending at the deadline. And then the Brunette part of this, where it does feel like the system has come together. They've grasped what he's asking them to do, and the results are what they are. Not only are they generating chances offensively, right now the numbers would tell you they're the best defensive team in the league over this stretch. So they're locking things down, and they're generating good offense. It tells you they've got the puck. And when you got the puck, good things happen. That's the most exciting part to me if I'm a Predators fan, is not only what it means now with the system, but what's that going to mean when you start to improve the talent level of the system that he's running?
Yeah. No, it's all about dominating the puck. That's what he said at his first press conference, and it's you can say that. Can you do the things consistently to do that? They figure that out. I watch this. I watch Florida. You consider Chicago's Cups, and I wonder why like everyone in the league doesn't play like this.
Yeah.
And obviously every league's a copycat league, so and I think there's more of this, but it's like it makes total sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense as long as you can do it consistently well, which they seem to have figured out.
Caleb and Gallatin says, this is a good team. Obviously, we'll be in the playoffs, but I still wouldn't be mad if we did lose in the first round. I think no matter what, they'll make it a competitive series against whoever it may be. I would be mad if we somehow got swept, though. This is from Caleb from Gallatin on the text line. Look, if this has been a lot of fun to watch. If they get to the first round and they're taking on like Colorado and they take Colorado to 6 or 7 games and lose, I mean, I think the overwhelming opinion of the fan base will be, okay, got something to build on here heading into next season. I mean, obviously, if they win a series against one of these teams, then we're having a completely different conversation. But I think if they make a first-round series competitive against a team that they're going to be an underdog against, then you start to wonder about what that could mean moving forward. Now, having said that, as Brian from Cookeville brings up, I said it earlier, like Evangelista is the one young guy they got on the team right now. Everybody else, I mean, they have younger players.
Yeah, they're not graybeards,
right?
But
But Fabro, I mean, he's been around for a while. Carrier's been around for a while. Lozon's been around for a while. Like they have like one true young guy right now. So is that concerning? How do we feel about that part of it in terms of what that means for the future of the team?
Well, it is if some of these other guys. You got guys like Kemmel and maybe Wood at some point. Some of these other, I mean, if they're going to end up coming in and filling some of these spots well and eventually upgrading you in that way, then it's not as concerning. But like comparisons are going to be made. This team gets in the playoffs and whatever, they give Colorado a great series or Vancouver a great series or they win a series. The comparisons will be obvious to like about 2015, right? Laviolette's in here, takes over that team, the young Preds, and they give the Blackhawks everything they want. Probably should have won that series. But the difference is that team was loaded with young guys, and this team is not.
Right. I mean, they got Fabro, I think, is the next youngest at 25. So it's Fabro, who feels like he's been around forever because he has been around for a long time. Carrier, Evangelista at 22 is really like their one guy that they've got right now. That's a true young player. Parsons down in Milwaukee, Tomasino's down in Milwaukee. They've had other guys up at different points this year. Even Cody Glass. Like Cody Glass, I think a lot of people consider one of these young guys, and he's like 26. So it's like, okay, well, what is that going to mean in terms of what they do? And by the way, I mean, he's not even playing right now, so I don't kind of input him. And he's 24, excuse me, but he's not playing right now, so he's not even in the lineup in terms of the team that they're icing.
So if we'll see how the rest of the season goes, but you could make the case, and I mean I think it's already kind of there, but like the timeline for Barry Trotz has been Yossi and Forsberg are still great.
Correct.
I don't know how many more years that is. I don't see the end. The end is not in sight of that at all, but you can't expect that to be 4 years, right?
Well, I don't think so. And I also, to that point, everything comes back to like the Saros discussion. How does that affect the Saros discussion this
I
summer,
was just
too?
going to say, that's also why you make the case to deal Askarov.
Right.
And you're going with your guy who is really good, and you've got, it won't be long before we're talking about the Preds going for it, and they're all of a sudden they're buying or whatever to try to, like, load up. They're not that far away, especially when you have a month like they've had here.
A month like they've had here, and an opportunity tonight to keep it going. Like, it would be really disappointing if they lost tonight. At some point here, they're going to lose. They got a heck of a test coming up on Thursday in Florida on the road, and that's gonna be a heck of an opportunity for them. Number one, to see how they stack up against, in my opinion, the league's best team, and number two, can they keep this thing going here? I think what they've done a really good job of that they were doing a poor job of earlier in the year. They had so many games, especially at home, where they just came out flat. And it looked like they weren't ready to play. And some of those games came against opponents that you had no business losing to. I remember them just getting run out of the building in the first period against the Ducks one time, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, there's no reason for this team to be getting run out of the building by the Anaheim Ducks. They've done a really good job over this stretch of kind of staying in the moment, of worrying about the team that they're playing. Can they keep that going tonight against a team that is really bad, that you just saw a couple of weeks ago, that you have no business losing to? But you gotta make sure you continue to be locked in this time of year because, I mean, as
They're
good of a
still
run
on
they're
your
on
heels.
right now, Minnesota keeps winning. St. Louis has won 4 in a row. They keep winning. So you got to keep collecting points if you're the Predators here.
Yeah, like I expect them to come out and just take care of business. I do. I fully expect them to dominate this game and win convincingly. And a month ago, this same awful San Jose team, it'd be a lot more like, well, you got to be locked in. This is dangerous at home, bad team. I don't feel that way anymore. But then all of a sudden it happens, and
Yep.
then we complain about the next day.
Well, there's that. Coming up next, it's time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. We'll do that next. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as Vanderbilt baseball takes on Belmont at First Horizon Park with a pregame at 5:45, first pitch at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
I'd rather listen to REO Speedwagon fart into an accordion than go to a Creed show. I don't understand. And here we go. Let's go. That's the kid with the train.
It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Keezer keeps going deeper into the vault with some of these clips from you. I like it.
Yeah, it's really hard to listen to my voice anyway. Like every time we run a commercial, whoever picks the audio for our commercials clearly hates my guts because there's no way I sound that stupid all the time, right? I really think they're really good. It's like that's how I sound?
Probably not.
Every day.
All right, I'm going to be fast here, and I'm going to be delicate here, but I have to say something, okay? And please take this as the father of a 13-year-old daughter, okay?
Okay.
What are the young girls wearing these days?
I don't know.
Why does everything have to be? I mean, like, I guess this is kind of like across the board. Like everybody's wearing really short shorts and stuff like that.
It's back in style.
You know, I mean, and it is kind of funny because if you want to take big picture style, it is wild to look back at, like, some people have been putting basketball shorts pictures from like 2008 on, and they really were. They were just balloon like jammy pants. Yeah. And it is amazing how it didn't seem stupid at the time, and now it's like, what? But I mean, I guess we're headed back toward like Isaiah Thomas would wear short shorts where you could like see the jock strap as he played.
Yeah.
You know, like it might, or John Stockton. You know?
It's totally back in style. Like I'll be in the gym and some high school kids are in there and they're wearing like 1980s basketball shorts, and it's like, really? So this is like it's mullets and it's basketball shorts that barely go past like your hip bone.
Yeah,
that's what's come back in.
So maybe the rat tail's coming back. But I just need to say, I don't want to be old man yelling at the cloud type thing, but it's okay to like not have clothes that revealing.
It is.
I was chaperoned at high school dance, and again, I'm just like, what are we doing here?
I do not look forward to that.
Well, and the thing is, it's like I actually, when we had our daughter, my wife and I were talking about that, and I was like, it's going to cycle back, because like when I was in college, like everybody just wore like loose baggy jeans and flannels.
Yeah,
it hasn't cycled back.
It's amazing.
Is it going to continue going this way?
I hope not. I'm going to run out of room.
Yeah, well, you've got a few years yet, but just wanted to kind of say that I have no solution other than just please, people of the world, cover yourself a little bit.
I'm curious why it's the mullet and the short shorts that are what's coming back. I mean, I don't see many parachute pants out there. Everything. I mean, things do go in cycles, right? Like we've seen this happen before. But
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of mullets out there right now. A lot of the short shorts coming back. I didn't expect that to be the thing.
Yeah, it is interesting how it's like random things. Like some things, thankfully, get left. Like, I guess there was kind of like a return of bell bottoms a little bit, but like, if you go back to look at pictures of the '70s, it's incredible. Like, how drugged out was everybody in the '70s? Like, what were you thinking with these huge bell bottoms and like the colors on your shirt are like the Brady Bunch kitchen counter shirts. Like it's amazing. The huge collars, the leisure suits. I mean, there's some pictures of me as a little kid in the '70s that are just like, my mother put me in that.
I'm just trying to think about you. Like, because I would love to picture you as like, what would Rexrode, what was he like back in the day with a mullet? But I mean, you pretty much told me that you've had the same hairstyle since you were in like 6th grade.
Well, Katie claims, like my senior picture, she claims that I have a mullet in it, and I'm like, trust me, my dad was in the Army. My dad was very much like I did have a little bit longer haircut in late '70s, but I actually remember when my dad took me to get a haircut in like 1981 and buzzed it, and it's basically been the same hair since then. I did try to grow it out a little bit, and he's like, nah. I mean, he took me like in 9th grade. Like, he took me like, nah, let's go. We're going on base. We're going to Fort Lee. We're going to the barber. He's a very good barber, and we're going to chop that stuff. But you know what? It's just less of a hassle. So it's fine with me. Lego hair, that's fine.
Music's coming back too, right? I mean, we've talked about this. Our friends Creed kind of making a comeback now. You know, they're going on tour and they're in Super Bowl commercials and voicing promos for this program here. Like, music is coming back around too. It's good to see that part of it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up Creed.
Yeah, you're welcome.
By the way, since we're just randomly talking about things on this rant, I think he just became a grandfather. Did I hear that correctly?
I don't
Someone
know.
Google it. Katie said this to me, and I was like, wow, well, good for him. I have nothing negative to say. Well, I just heard the news today. So does that mean that this is the child of the child he was talking about in that song?
I guess if that's true.
If it's true, let me know. I don't want to say anything more negative about Scott Stapp. Gover says when Robby's daughter was in high school, she looked like Eddie Vedder.
God, I hope not.
Well, I assume he's talking about this cyclical nature of clothing.
I guess.
Some nice flannel.
Yeah.
You know, a little chain on the jeans. Some Birkenstocks.
When is breakdancing coming back? That's what we really need to get you in on.
I mean, some
You
people
could lead
still
the
do
charge.
it. I mean, the thing is, I used to be known for breakdancing at weddings. I don't know if that's probably about to end here, but I've had some good popping and locking at some weddings. Trey says, "Thank you. I work downtown and literally think, do your parents know you're dressed like this?" All right, so I'm not the only one. Thank you.
John
Thank you,
from
Trey.
Clarksville says, "Be careful with the Brady Bunch references. Many have no clue who they are nowadays."
Yeah, well, I don't care. Yeah, like if you are a young person, okay, Nick Keyser, do you get a Brady Bunch reference? Do you understand the Brady Bunch? Do you know what they are?
Some, yes, I do.
You've seen like
Yeah, I have.
I mean, there are
So
some
the 70 thing, right?
Full House was more
I
of
guess
my
70s.
thing, and
That's
then
70s.
that 70s show was awesome as well. Yeah,
Well, that was
that was in the
2000
late
show,
90s, but yes,
doesn't matter. Still
right.
an older show.
But the point being,
Red Foreman, greatest TV character ever. Continue.
He is very good. I guess with Brady Bunch though, you had in the 90s you had the movies. So that should have brought some from it. Yeah, I don't care, John. Like we got to stick together. The Gen Xers, we have to stick together, and we're going to keep making our references with each other to 8 is Enough and Nicholas's little, mushroom haircut and One Day at a Time and Schneider. I mean, I'm not going to stop, man. I'm not going to stop.
I'm still trying
What a
to
weird
find
rant this has been.
confirmation of Scott Stapp
Ramblings of a
grandfather.
50-year-old.
I got to find it. 615-737.
So it's not true?
I don't know. I just haven't seen
Yeah.
it.
So Joe says it. He
Okay.
says it became a grandfather. You
There
should
you
send. All right. Well, congrats to him.
I was just looking at his Instagram page. It's not on there. So maybe he just hadn't put it to Instagram yet.
Okay, there you go. People.com. Scott Stapp is a grandfather. Congratulations
Googled.
for the baby. Play some Pearl Jam or Smashing Pumpkins. Not your own music.
Robby in Rexrode. Maybe the greatest thing he's done in his career. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll get back into the Titans coming up next. Mel Kiper has come out with a new mock draft. We'll touch on that. Also get back into the defensive side of the ball and concerns of holes in the roster that may be pretty difficult to fill for the Titans. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, Mel Kiper has come out with his latest mock draft today. I think you're going to see this formula a lot over the next few weeks here.
Okay.
So 3 quarterbacks taken right off the top with Chicago, Washington, and New England, and then immediately followed up by 3 wide receivers with Arizona, L.A., and the Giants, which leaves every offensive tackle on the board by the time the Titans get there at number 7. So Mel Kiper has the Titans taking Joe Alt. There's a big shocker when you've seen a bunch of mock drafts this year. Joe Alt at number 7.
Yep. I think that's a real possibility. I know that the Athletic today, while I travel to Charlotte, I'm going to have to pull over to the side of the road and make a draft pick at some point for the Titans. And I'm guessing it's probably going to look a lot like that. Maybe not. There's already been a crazy trade, though. I can't give it away. But these writer GMs, someone surprising moved into the 3rd spot to get a QB, I think, to get a QB. So, but I think that's probably where reality would probably put things, is the Titans having their pick of the offensive tackles. So I guess Alt would be the pick.
I guess. It depends on their evaluation. I mean, you're Fashanu, aren't you? Team Fashanu?
I like Fashanu. But, Alt is also, 6'9", super athletic, and, Dad was a great player in the NFL. Not that necessarily means anything.
Kuiper's got Fashanu going.
Is that why Joe Alt is a draft prospect? Because his dad was a good player? Okay.
Would people know who Joe Alt is if his dad didn't play?
Yeah, maybe not. What were you going to say? Sorry, before I interrupted you.
Kuiper's got Fashanu going to the Saints at 14.
Okay.
So 7 picks after the Titans.
Does he have any tackles in between those two?
Let's see here. He does not.
Okay.
Yes, he does. J.C. Latham.
Really?
13 to the Raiders, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really does get interesting with the tackles. Again, I think Mims is a fascinating player.
Yeah.
And this is where you got to have the opportunity. And I'm not saying they should do it or I would do it, but if you had the opportunity to move back and get into the 3rd round, as we've talked about, man, do they have needs on defense? Would you consider it because you really love a Latham? I mean, I think Latham is more of a right tackle, but a Mims, whatever. Like, is that something that is in the Titans' mindset right now as a possibility if they get the opportunity?
Well, another thing to keep in mind, so the Jets, we've talked about them being a team that's needy at tackle. Well, they just signed Tyron Smith to a 1-year deal from Dallas. So you've got the quarterback situation with Atlanta signing Cousins. You have now them not needing a quarterback. So the idea of somebody trying to trade ahead of Atlanta to go land a J.J. McCarthy feels like it's a little bit less likely now that Atlanta's made that move. And then I guess the team that you were worried about maybe getting nervous with a tackle that they loved, that clearly needed a tackle, was the Jets, and they've made the move in free agency to bring in a left tackle in Tyron Smith. So, I mean, I guess, do you read that as more likely that the Titans are just going to have, based on what's happening in front of them right now with the Chargers trading away Keenan Allen and their need at receiver, and now what's happening behind them with the Jets already signing a left tackle? Like, it feels like the Titans are sitting pretty right now in terms of the left tackle spot and the players that are going to be there.
Definitely does. Yeah, it definitely does. So perfect for them, especially perfect for them if and it's probably Alt, but maybe it's Fashanu, maybe it's somebody else. But if it is somebody else, that's where it's like, man. Well, I guess if it's somebody else and they take that player at 7, okay, well, that's how you evaluate them.
Yeah.
But especially if they have somebody that they clearly view as the best left tackle, the best possibility for them, it looks pretty good for them to have their choice at that position. It definitely did not necessarily look that way a few weeks ago. Free agency has changed things. Now, maybe the Harpster is going left tackle anyway, even though you would think that they would address receiver because they're such high-end receivers that'll that at least a couple I think that would be available to them there. Maybe he's still going O-line, but you would think that they would go there because I guess you could look at the depth of the positions either way, but I feel like they're probably better off getting the top end receiver and then going tackle later.
So how about this on the quarterback front though? So Kuiper's got three quarterbacks that we've talked about going 1, 2, 3, with Drake May going third to the Patriots. He's got McCarthy at 11 to Minnesota, and Bo Nix right after that at 12 to Denver. You make a Bo Nix going that high in the draft. I mean, like if you want a quarterback and you're not able to trade up, I mean, 4 are probably going to be off the board by the time Denver gets around. Like Minnesota's taking a quarterback, right?
I think so. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
do you think Bo Nix is a first-round quarterback?
I think he probably will be. Is he a first? Is he that good? I don't know. I mean, he was really good last year. I will say that you think about like Auburn Bo Nix. I'm like, that guy will never play in the NFL.
Right.
And I mean, I watched last year and I'm like, okay, I think he's going to play in the NFL. First round, that's what happens, right? It's like the you turn into the team that's just more about need and you have to try, and that's where I think more teams should just try to build a team and not use a first-round pick on a quarterback just because they need a quarterback. I think that's how teams really get in trouble, but I won't be surprised at all if he goes in the first round.
By the way, he's got Mims going to Baltimore, which would just be like the most Baltimore thing ever. Of here's this giant human being that is now an excellent tackle that you could play, and you get him at number 30 overall.
Yeah,
Mims.
That monster, and then Derrick Henry behind him. Seems fair.
Could be fun. I mean, the picture's shaping up nicely for the Titans to find their left tackle. We talked about the holes earlier, right? So we're going to get back into the defensive part of this coming up, but there's a lot of holes left to fill on the defensive side of things. There's still the main hole offensively is left tackle that you got to fill, especially now that you've signed Ridley. I still think at some point a right tackle needs to be involved in the discussion, but you got to get left tackle figured out. And it feels like the Titans are in good position to do that now in the draft. Now, what's going to be interesting here is does anybody in front of the Titans go crazy here and take a tackle off the board? Like we've talked about that with LA. It feels less likely now that you've traded away Keenan Allen. Like when you got Malik Neighbors probably sitting right there, it feels like that's probably the way they're going to go. So it doesn't feel likely that any of these teams in front of the Titans are going to take one of those tackles. But if they do, how much does that alter your plans if you're the Titans? Like, is there, as Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan and Bill Callahan are working through this, I mean, clearly, I think Kuiper views it as a little bit of a gap between the tackles. Does everybody else view it that way too, where it's Joe Alt and everybody else? Is it Joe Alt and Fashanu and then everybody else?
That's how it was framed, and it feels like people are going away from that. But
Yeah.
why?
Right. I mean, because if you're the Titans and you've got one significantly higher than the other, and I would assume that would affect the way your draft strategy goes at that point.
Yeah, but you still may then be stuck. Like let's say the Harbster goes alt, and you have Fashanu. It's like, what if you have Fashanu behind some other guys who are on your big board?
Right.
I'm a believer in the big board. I am a believer, but I also and then you don't have any opportunity. No one's coming trying to get into 7. Do you just take Fashanu? Even if you consider there to be a pretty significant gap. I think Fashanu is going to be really good. So to me, that's the move, but it would be an interesting situation. And again, they may have Fashanu ahead of Alt anyway.
They could go guard and take Troy Fatanu, and we can watch Stillman have an aneurysm live on the air when it happens.
Guard!
Another guard in the first round, 7th overall.
Oh,
Be fun.
I mean, talk about a guard collection. They got Andres Pete visiting too. So, by the way, from the Saints, who I've been on a total war on the text line today about the cap.
It'll never stop.
It will never stop. That's got to be a Jared burner.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll get to the holes on the defensive side of the ball for the Titans How do they fill them? Can they fill them with what's been done already this offseason and what's out there left in free agency in the draft? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you, live from our Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. So the Titans, looking around at the defensive side of things, got some holes to fill. Now, they've made some moves already on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Kenneth Murray coming in at inside linebacker. Cheeto at corner, which I love that nickname. We're going Cheeto the rest of the way. A Woozy.
I'm a fan
not
of
a
that.
Woozy, eh?
A Woozy.
Cheeto coming in at corner. So they've addressed some holes that they've had. But you look at the rest of the roster, I think they pretty clearly still need another cornerback. I think they need some help at inside linebacker still. And obviously on the defensive line with Danico Autry out, and there's not really been an adequate replacement for that, you have a major hole there next to Jeffrey Simmons. I think you could stand to add another edge rusher as well if you're the Titans. So it begs the question, number one, as currently constructed, how good is this defense going to be with Denard Wilson coming in? And number two, with the holes that are still pretty clearly there, how equipped are the Titans to deal with that and to address those, given what we've seen to this point in free agency, what's still out there in free agency, and, of course, what's coming up in the draft without having a third-round pick available to them?
Yeah, well, I am drifting towards second-round pick defense as again, big board. There's an incredible receiver there. Whatever. Big board should guide you, but – man, they really need to get some high-end young players in on this defense. I like what they've done with the offense. If they get the right left tackle to go with everything else, I'm gonna be excited to watch the offense operate next fall. I think it's got a chance. Right now, the defense, the problem is too, like Landry and Simmons. You are certainly counting on those guys. They are making big money. They're at the top of the list of the cap hits that you have next year, and they need to be great, but it's harder for them to be great if they don't have more help around them. And I think Simmons has definitely benefited from Autry, and I think Landry in the past, even like when Bud Dupree had some stretches, like that was they played off each other. And you got to have other people who occupy the attention, of the offense. And so I really think they need to put a significant investment, but that could be high in the draft, somewhere in that front. And then, they need another corner too for sure. But I just think right now the defensive line is Jeffrey Simmons, and then I don't know who else, really.
Well, that's a problem. And I'm with you. Like Landry started to come on at the end of last year with an offseason of him being fully healthy. I feel good about him and excited to watch him play next year. I think he's going to be good. But you do need some other help along with him and Simmons on the line. Like, Arden Key was fine in some moments last year, but for the most part, Arden Key is a starting player. I think we saw that he's not really a starting caliber NFL player. Like, he's a situational guy that can come in and rush the passer for you on third down, and every now and then he'll get home. But that's about it with Arden Key. So you need an upgrade there. I mean, I don't think Weaver at this point in his career, I don't think he's that. So how do you go about finding an upgrade at the edge rusher spot while also trying to address up the middle next to Simmons, which with Autry gone, look, it's a huge hole. Autry, I know he's getting up there in age, but we've talked about it. It's been Autry and Simmons together that have been really the strength of that defensive front. And now that he's gone, that's a gigantic loss. And how do you overcome that if you're the Titans? Like, it's hard to ask anybody to come in there and be Danico Autry and what he's been over the last few years for the Titans. But if Sweat's there, do you have to go that way and just have Sweat next to Simmons and try to eat up as much space as humanly possible with him in there and have, Landry coming off the edge over there? It feels like there's a lot of holes left that I'm not sure the Titans are going to be able to just fully address now at this point in the offseason. Like, the first wave of free agency is gone. You didn't get Armstead. You didn't get Reeder. Like, there's guys that were there that have signed elsewhere that I think really could help this football team, and you lost out on them.
Yeah, for sure. That to me would have been the perfect thing to get one of those guys, and then you can focus on edge and corner. LD says, feels like the Titans need safety, corner, inside linebacker, D tackle, and DN/edge. I agree, and I would rank them, to me, in importance. I would rank them D tackle, corner, edge. Because, look, they do have guys who can play, at least on the edge. We've seen them make some plays. You need more help, but D tackle, then corner. And then I'd go edge, safety, inside linebacker, or I guess edge, inside linebacker, safety, I guess. They do need to bring in, they're going to sign a safety. I think they're going to sign a linebacker, and I think they may well sign guys at those other spots too. I mean, I think you're going to see that in this wave of free agency. Going to be low-cost options. You're going to take some flyers on some guys. It's not going to be very exciting, and you're still going to be left with, to me, the draft question of, like, how much are you going on defense now after the bulk of your free agency spending has been on offense?
Do any of these corners that are still available move the needle for you at all?
Give me some names.
Xavier Howard, J.C. Jackson, Adoree Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, Patrick Peterson, who is apparently only 33. You could have told me he was 50, and I'd said, yep.
That's the thing. A lot of big-time names of guys who used to be great players.
Right. Eli Apple is out there. Christian Bolton's still out there, by the way. I don't think he's coming back. Trey Flowers from Atlanta, Logan Ryan, who is apparently only 33. You could have also told me he was 50, and I said, yep.
Logan Ryan's 33?
Yeah, 33.
That's stunning to me.
Wild.
Oh, my gosh. Good for you, Logan.
Yeah.
I'd love him back
Vildor
here.
is out there. Any of these names moving the needle for you at all?
Not really. Fulton is interesting, too, that he's still out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Fulton would be signed somewhere by now. But, yeah, you look at it. Didn't play well too much of last year. Injuries, all that. I guess it's not that surprising. I still think he has talent. I absolutely think Christian Fulton, if it worked out for him, if injuries and performance, and he could be a nice, like, he's a guy who's going to be potentially a nice surprise for someone who's going to pay him not that much money. And that's what the Titans need to find. But it's just not going to be him specifically.
Well, I mean, right now, who's your starting corners? Cheeto, McCreary, who else? Who's your other starting corner right now?
Yeah, who would that be? Like, on the roster. And I know someone asked earlier about Farley, and it just, the question with Farley is simply, can he stick in this league? So Trey Avery,
please.
Anthony Kendall.
Yeah.
Brian? How's that strike you?
Trey Avery.
Trey Avery will be your starter, please. Is that right?
Yeah, they need to. They got work.
They got to
do.
have one.
Yeah, and that's where, again, it's okay. So go to the draft. Go to the second round. What would people think about? It's not a great corner draft.
No.
But that's at the top. I think there are plenty of corners. And, like, corner seems to me like a perfect third-round answer, except they don't have that pick.
Yeah.
But I think, I think in the fourth round of the NFL draft, you can often find a starter, and especially if you're just totally strapped at a position. So that may be the answer.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Titans, their needs on the defensive side of the ball coming up next. Also, what do we make of what the rest of the division has done in free agency to this point? We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Taking your thoughts on the Titans' NFL free agency, holes on the defensive side of the ball. Can the Titans fill them all? We'll take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. John from Clarksville on the text line. Howard, talking about Xavier Howard, still has skills as a top cornerback and could cover number ones, but he has a soft tissue injury history with a groin. He was a straight cap cut for Miami, or else they would have kept him. This is from John from Clarksville on the text line. Tyler on the text line. Honestly, why are we just throwing Christian Fulton away? He's still a good guy to take a shot at. It's reasonable to think that the old staff had something to do with injury issues, given the repetitive volume and others leaving and performing better. Just don't see why this isn't a shot we take. This is from Tyler on the text line, going back to Christian Fulton.
Well, I sort of threw that out there with Tier Tart. Right? Like he had conflict with the last coaching staff, I think in particular Terrell Williams, Mike Vrabel, and they're gone. So I guess
it appears this is more of a Tier Tart problem because the reports out of Cincinnati are that he is not a fit for the Bengals.
Yeah. No, I mean he's hurt himself a lot. He's cost himself a lot of money. It's too bad, really, because he's a good player, and I just personally speak on personal experience. I always enjoyed Tier Tart. Yeah, and he seemed to fit in just fine. That's right. He's a friend of the program, isn't he? So, yeah, that thing didn't help him. With Fulton, I think there was – I don't really care about a player's dad tweeting, but that there was certainly some – I think he expressed the displeasure on the Fulton camp with the Titans. But, hey – I get both sides of the whole thing. The bottom line is if you're going to be hurt that much and then you're going to perform like he did this year, which I think was probably the product of a guy maybe at times kind of playing outside the system or playing outside himself and maybe feeling the pressure or whatever, it's going to cost you. I don't completely discard the idea. I don't think he'll be here. But I don't completely discard the thought, which is look around – who's good out there? You do know he can play. Maybe a totally new staff and strength coach, all that stuff would be like a totally new start for him.
I mean, if you get him on a one-year deal for about $3 million, I'm cool with it. Other than that, no. Move on.
Well, what's he going to get?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean,
it's hard, man.
It's probably not going to be a long-term deal at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I could see him getting like a two for – 8?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Could be. I mean, he's not the only one that's still out there, but it is interesting that he's still floating out there. Adory's out there too. Just waiting, biding their time, get a new deal.
Same thing. Adory. Vrabel was not a huge fan.
Yeah, he was not.
Vrabel's gone. So.
He was not a huge fan. Let's go back to our text line. We got a lot of people today asking about Caleb Farley. I don't view Caleb Farley and Treylon Burks as the same situation because Burks is going to be on the field and a part of the team and hopefully takes a step forward. Like Farley, if he can contribute anything for you at this point, be that special teams, be that reserve snaps as a backup corner, I think that's gravy. I'm operating under the assumption that Caleb Farley is not really a part of the team. I know he's coming back from injury, and he's probably going to be on the roster in training camp, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But anything they get from him at this point on the field is something that you're not planning on. It's just gravy at that point from Farley. Yeah, and I wish him the best. I hope that he comes back and he's able to put together a career for himself where he can get on the field. But that body's been through a lot at this point.
Yeah, it's basically it's a story of can he hang in? You can't count on him. Look, he's got size, and when he has everything healthy, I think hopefully for him he can still run pretty well. It's not anything you can count on. So I think the story is more about what can he do to stay in the league, and not what can the Titans get from him. That's not realistic in my opinion.
What do you make of what the rest of the division has done to this point? We've talked about Houston. Obviously, they've been extremely aggressive. Jacksonville, they lose out on Calvin Ridley to you. So there's a part of your offseason is not only what you've gained, but also what you've taken away from the Jags. Gabe Davis coming into the Jags at this point. Indy basically has re-signed a bunch of their guys that they had. They did get Joe Flacco as a backup quarterback. But overall, what do we make of what the rest of the division has done to this point and how that positions the Titans heading into this season and obviously with the draft coming up?
Well, I don't know if there's any free agency grades out yet. Maybe there are, even though there's still some more, to go. But whenever they come out, the Texans are going to get an A, right, from just about anybody, I would think. I mean, they've done a great job. They've loaded up. As you said, the Jags losing Ridley, and by all accounts, the Jags wanted Ridley, so I think that speaks well for the Titans. One thing we haven't talked about is Ridley's presser. Here, which
really good.
It was.
Yeah.
And I'm with you on 29 is the new 25. 50 is the new 38. So let's go with that. That was good though. I mean, he made me feel like he is going to come out here and try to show people, that he's a top end receiver in this league and not just happy to get the bag, as Kuharski has often suggested. But the Jags do get Armstead, which is a nice signing for them. I mean, the Colts, why can't I think of a Colts move?
Joe Flacco. That's about. I mean, they re-signed Zaire Franklin.
They've kept a whole bunch of their guys,
right?
And that's some good guys.
Pittman,
they kept Moore because a lot of people thought Moore might be out there. So they've got that. Chris Ballard builds a hell of a roster, as we know. but it's been pretty quiet from them. Interesting with Flacco too. Flacco was incredible in Cleveland, and it was like, what am I watching? And then I watched the playoff game. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought he was. Yeah. So, I kind of like Gardner Minshew, especially just Minshew's. Even kind of like the offense doesn't change as much from if Richardson does get hurt. Minshew running around.
Minshew's got to go be a starter though. He's going to the Raiders to start.
Yeah, that's wild. But to me, it's kind of the Texans. To me, it's the Texans and the Titans. Look, the Titans got how many guys at the top of the – basically, look, how many guys did the Titans sign that were basically at the one or two at the respective positions when they signed them? I mean, I count 3 guys that they got in free agency that are right there at the top of the list. I think Cheeto would have been one of the 2, right?
Cushenberry for sure.
Cushenberry 1.
And then Ridley.
And Ridley
1. Yeah.
I mean, again, there's still the defense. It's fair. It's unfortunate that they did not do more on the defense. But in one free agency period, to get 3 guys like that is actually pretty freaking good, I would say.
Now, one thing that's interesting with the Jags and Mia O'Brien, who works down in Jacksonville for 1010 XL and also does some work for AP, put this out there, I think yesterday or the day before. Says the 49ers kind of going with we talked about the Brandon Ayuk part of this. Apparently, the 49ers wanted the number 17 overall pick, which is what Jacksonville has, and Zay Jones, and they would have traded Ayuk to the Jags. Now, that didn't happen, obviously, but is there at some point, is there going to be a Jags-Niners trade that involves Brandon Ayuk? Because then that makes obviously the Calvin Ridley departure way more palatable
way
at
easier
that point if you're the Jags.
Yeah, cushions that blow big time if they can pull that off. On the Titans, top guys thing too. Where's Pollard among the running backs?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, it's hard for me to put him over Derrick Henry.
I wouldn't put him above Barkley.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking.
He might be third.
He may be third. I mean, Eckler.
No, I'd put him. Eckler's been too banged up.
Yeah. So third.
Yeah. Okay. So third best running back. What about kicker? Number 1.
Yeah, and they did get the number 1 kicker. I mean,
right?
Aaron Jones in Minnesota, I'd probably put him over Pollard too, but that's just me.
Okay, so maybe 4th for Pollard.
Yeah.
So a 1, a 2, A
Josh
1.
Jacobs in Green Bay.
A 1.
So maybe Pollard's like 5th.
That's close.
It is close.
That's close. I think Pollard at his best, and Pollard is, by the way, I know you love this because you're huge on receivers blocking. He is like the best pass pro running back in the league.
That's good. They need it.
Per the metrics.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but that's 5 positions that they've addressed at high level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like in terms of what's available, pretty good. I mean, so you look at it that way, you're like, wow, what a great free agency appear from the Titans. The problem is you still have these glaring holes at a couple of spots that you could have addressed and you didn't.
Right.
In particular, I'd say corner and D-line.
Coming up next, it's time for Pred's Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Pred's back in action tonight, taking on the Sharks. Be the first caller, 615-737-1025, our phone number. If you guess the goal scorer for the Predators tonight, you want a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game, we'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are preferred so often. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It's time for Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the San Jose Sharks. Puck drops 7 o'clock, pregame 6 o'clock here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. A standings update. We're getting down to crunch time here in the competition in Preds Pick to Click. The listeners with a 2-goal lead, 15 correct answers. Joe Rexrode in second place with 13.
Oh, boy.
Nick Kieser making a late season push. He's up to double digits, 10 correct answers. I remain at 6, so I am totally screwed at this point in the competition. With that in mind, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line.
You're the Sharks of the competition.
I am the Sharks of the competition. We go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in April. April, good morning. Who is your pick to click for the Nashville Predators tonight?
Good morning. I'm going to go with the red-hot Roman Josi.
April, good pick. We appreciate you calling in.
Thank you.
Roman Josi, the selection by April.
And I'm first, right?
Nope, I am.
What? You have 6. No, just come on, man. Like at this point, you don't need to just take
Kiefer Sherwood's been pretty hot against the Sharks.
There we go.
We'll go Philip Forsberg.
God dang it. This is come on, man.
Josi Forsberg off the board. Rexrode, you are up next. Your pick to click.
We should be banding together against the listeners. All right. Well, I'm going to go the guy we've talked about quite a bit today. I'm going to go Gus Nyquist.
I like it. Josi, Forsberg, Nyquist off the board. Kieser, your pick to click.
Anthony Beauvillier.
I knew you were going to do that.
Let's do it.
I absolutely knew that was coming.
Why? How did you know?
As soon as I asked you the question, I was thinking in my head, what random player is he going to pick? And I was like, it's going to be a Beauvillier.
You think he's random? He's brand new.
Oh, he's
true.
random.
That's pretty random.
Yeah, I guess so.
I like that.
I mean, look,
He's
far
not-
be it for me to argue with you. You're doing better in this competition than I am.
He's not scored yet for the Nashville Predators, so I think he can easily do it this evening. Against
It also
the Sharks
might tell
team.
you that he doesn't score a lot, but yes.
Yeah.
Sure, Joe. But then again, you picked a Gus Nyquist who has more assists than goals.
He's got 18 goals.
Well,
Can he score goals or not?
intuition. I just wouldn't pick him.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Jeez.
Apparently, having more assists than goals mean you should never pick someone to score a goal.
Philip Forsberg has more assists than goals, too, but he scored 35 of them.
Yes, I know it's a moot point. Sorry.
It's okay. We love you, Nick.
No, I hate when he apologizes, and I feel bad for giving him crap.
Well, Beauvillier is going to score tonight now. We're sitting here talking about Beauvillier score on the first shift tonight against the Sharks.
Yeah, probably. Beauvillier. Just a
Nice
great
Hattie.
name.
Yeah, I mean, that line,
Everybody should fatten up tonight.
everybody should fatten up tonight. Does this game make you at all nervous if you're a Predators fan heading into this one? I mean, they've played the Sharks on this run here, and they won on the road. You're at home tonight. The Sharks are kind of banged up, too, by the way. I mean, I'm looking at their injury list right now. It's quite long, an extensive injury list that they've got. So, this is a game you should dominate.
Yeah.
Does it make
shouldn't
you nervous?
No. The Preds are going to win handily. I mean, until they demonstrate something to me other than they're a really good hockey team right now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy that this is a dangerous game for them. They're going to win like 5-2.
Well, and we said it earlier. You gotta keep putting the points together. You're in a great spot right now with what you've done. Minnesota keeps cobbling together points. St. Louis keeps cobbling together wins, and you look at what they've got coming up. So let's see. St. Louis, do they play tonight? They play Colorado tonight at home. So you're rooting for the Avs tonight, and then the Ducks are at home against the Wild. So hoping for an upset for the Ducks, for the Predators.
Okay.
But at least St. Louis has got Colorado. You need Nathan McKinnon and company to go ahead and take care of business tonight.
Yeah. Well, look, you know how a lot of these games down the stretch with these teams like the Sharks and the Ducks, for these teams chasing playoff, how many times do we see them actually win those games? It does happen. I just don't think it's going to happen to the Preds tonight.
I mean, the way they've been playing, if they play anywhere like they've been playing recently, they'll smoke the Sharks tonight. So Famous last words. We've already ruled out St. Peter's
Smoke Shark
from winning. Ooh, could be good.
Hey, real quick, another thing for everybody to root for tonight. Let's all band together. True TV, Colorado State, Virginia. We do not want to watch Virginia play any bit more basketball than we have to. Please get them out of the damn tournament tonight, Colorado State.
For the love of God.
All of
America's
America can root together.
Colorado State. That does it for us today here on the program. Joseph.